How's it going, you guys? In this video, I want to share two very basic, very simple, but very powerful and effective strategies for you to cope with and overcome stress and anxiety. Okay, so the first technique is a tried and tested method that's taught in many courses on psychology and therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy and things of that nature. And there's many experts that have lectures about it and things like that. And it's essentially an imaging technique. Okay, so if you have anxiety, okay, no matter what it is, let's say you have um, let's say you have social anxiety, right? Like you're scared of, you're going on a date with somebody and you're scared that the date is going to go bad. Um, Essentially, what you should do is think about, first, think about a time where you had you know, either a date with somebody, or maybe you hung out with a friend or even a family member, and that time that you spent with them, it went really, really good. Think back to the best time that you've had with another person. Okay, no matter who it is, it could be your mom, it could be your best friend, whatever. um, think back to how you felt and imagine this vividly, okay, for about 5 minutes. Okay, really like relax into it. Don't stress about it, but you know discipline yourself to sit there for about 5 minutes or however long, as long as possible actually, and just feel about it. Think about what you enjoyed in that experience. Think about how you talked to the other person. Think about how it felt. Think about how you felt. Think about how the other person seemed to feel. Their laughing, their mannerisms, their the way they're expressing themselves, and some of the activities that you did and things like that. Okay, and then think about probably like the worst experience you've had, or just an anxious experience. Think about the worst case scenarios that might possibly happen in whatever date or upcoming event that you're anxious about, and sit there for 5 minutes and start to think about how you feel, how you felt during this bad experience, and think about all of the feelings you feel, the reasons why you felt that way. And after you do this, compare the two experiences. Think about, how did your muscles feel? How was your breathing, if possible? Um, and what are some of the elements that created the good experience versus the anxious experience? And try to recreate the best experience and try to find elements of the best experience, the better experience. Try to find elements that are easy for you to recreate, because you can cultivate those emotions and some of those breathing patterns and vibrations in yourself if you really, really try. And obviously, this can be used for many different things. It could be used for sports performance. It could be used for dates. It could be used for an upcoming speech. It could be used for um, an exercise program, or a diet or nutrition. Think back to a time when you actually had success with a diet, and think about all the elements and how you felt and these things and why you liked it and why it worked, then compare it to the one that you keep failing on. Okay, and you'll find that you can typically, at the very least, be aware of what makes you feel good and comfortable and relaxed, and be aware of what makes you feel anxious. Okay, and what makes you feel um, like negative. Okay, and using this technique can be very powerful, at the very least, for awareness in the future. Obviously, when you're in the middle of anxiety, like you could feel your anxiety and feel and try to think about what it is that is contributing. But when you're inside of anxiety, it's much harder to actually do this technique. This is more of a technique to do when you're on your own and you're reflecting back on an anxious experience, or if you are getting ready to go through an anxious experience. This could kind of like prime your mind to some of the elements that cause you anxiety and stress. And over time, okay, not immediately. Maybe, I mean, immediately it could help, but over time, when you repeat this exercise, you'll have an increasing awareness of some of these traits and characteristics of your anxiety for whatever it is that you're anxious about. And over time, you can work on creating more of the relaxation and creating more of the elements that cause the good experience and less of the bad. Okay, and over time, you can correct some of these anxious characteristics, and over time, your anxiety will go away. Very powerful reflection technique. The second one is a breathing exercise. Now, breathing exercises are very effective, and again, is another time-tested technique that's talked about in many psychology courses and things of this nature, and it's emphasized with many therapists for many different conditions, especially anxiety and stress. There's many different methods, and how successful you'll be with these breathing exercises depend entirely on your ability to successfully do them properly. Um, so obviously you can research different breathing techniques and find one that you have success with, through trial and error. It's what I've had to do. But my favorite breathing technique, that is my favorite breathing technique. This is not a scientifically proven one. The best scientific breathing technique would be called box breathing. Okay, you can look it up. Essentially, there's many different types, but you basically breathe in for 4 seconds, hold it for 4 seconds, and then let it out for 4 seconds. And then repeat the process for 5 to 10 sets, and then breathe naturally, and then you can repeat it. And I find that is the most immediately relaxing and centering technique, and it's one that seems to be universal for everybody. So search up box breathing. Okay. There's also the Wim Hof method, which I haven't really practiced or studied yet, but one of my good friends kind of introduced me to it. And it seems like essentially he hyperventilates for like a minute, and then he breathes extremely slowly for like a couple minutes. But I'll have to study that and practice that and then make my own video on it in the future. But my favorite breathing technique is just simply breathing as relaxed and slowly as I can without creating tension in my body, and then slowly breathing out, and with particular emphasis on the in breath, and try to at least keep a 1-to-1 ratio of time between the in breath and the out breath. But preferably, if you can, start to make the out breath last longer than the in breath. So 10 seconds in, 15 seconds out. And try to, you can make it a game. You could make it a game where you try to beat your record of how long your in and out breath is. You could go for total time of breath cycles. My longest was a 2-minute total breath, I believe it was. It might have been longer. It might have been 3 minutes. And that was back when I was really practicing breathing work. Okay, I did a lot of breath work back then. And I was extremely into tonic herbs. I believe I was taking holy basil and gynostemma at the time, I believe. Shout out to Brandon Gilbert for turning me on to that, by the way. He's a great, check out his channel too. He's got a great channel. Doesn't take it seriously, but he's a great guy, and he sells great tonic herbs, highest quality. Anyway, slow, relaxed breathing is very powerful, and it's my favorite technique because it's just too simple. Like, there's no set rules. You can just kind of like do it as best you can. A lot of times people with extreme anxiety, especially if it's coupled with hyperventilation syndrome and some of these breathing restrictions, it could be very hard for them to do box breathing or some of these time breathing methods because they nocebo themselves into having more anxiety, and that defeats the purpose. So it's better to just kind of like go at your own pace and kind of like make it fun. And if you add affirmations to this, like after you kind of like get yourself into a slow breathing pattern, you could start to tell yourself, relax, 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 and just repeat relax, the word relax, repeat it, and try to feel into the feeling of relaxation while you repeat relax and while you breathe very, very slowly and relaxed. And you'll find that, like, to me, that's been the most powerful breathing technique ever. When I combine the slow, deep diaphragmatic breathing with the affirmation, relax, and then you really try to feel into that feeling of relaxation, you're tackling anxiety and stress from the physical and the mental and emotional at the same time. And it almost feels like your mother's there comforting you, or or however that may supposed to be feel like. Maybe some of you don't have mothers, and I apologize if that's the case, but it's like you have a pat from the universe telling you everything's going to be okay when you do that, comforting you. And even more powerful would be if you add tonic herbs like reishi mushroom, which is my favorite because it's the least likely to cause negative side effects. And then ashwagandha, holy basil, gynostemma, and some of these other ones. And you combine that with breath work and mantras and things like that, and you will find that you are so much more centered, so much more grounded, and much more able to deal with stress and anxiety. And for me, combining the tonic herbs with the breath work and the affirmations all at the same time, that was early 2015 when I made that huge transformation from an anxious wreck into the health guru that I become today. Anyway, leave your questions and comments down below. Let me know what you think. I hope that you find success with at least one of these methods. The breathing and mantras and things are extremely powerful if done properly, but I'll answer your questions if you have trouble. Subscribe and like, and I will talk to y'all soon.